Hello, and welcome back to another edition of FAT-urdays, where I indulge in being fat, despite me being on a keto diet officially now. Clap it up for me one time if you could. It's not the hardest thing in the world to do, but once you're used to having, bread on a daily, white powders, white sugar and everything, it's hard to get rid of. It's hard to kick the habit, but the whole point of FAT-urdays is the one day of the week I give in to the fast food, the bad food for you per se, depending on who you ask. I embrace being fat at heart still, hopefully not a fatty heart or high cholesterol, better yet said. But I just give in to, again, once a week, I indulge a little bit, and I talk some shit. I talk with my mouth full mostly, but yeah, just talking some things that came up while I eat, so forgive me in advance for, the impromptu, unsolicited mukbang or ASMR. Today's choice, though, for being fat on FAT-urdays, of course, is a go-to of mine, which I feel kind of gypped as I introduce it to you on the screen right here. If you can see that, I'll bring it to the light. It is the Nachos Bellgrande, from Taco Bell, which I would say shrunk over time. I feel a little gypped and robbed. This did include a Doritos Loco Taco thingy, whatever you call it, Supreme. What was it, $8? That one taco, and like a large size soda if you're choosing, because they got the machines you can dispense your own thing. Besides all that, though, we're gonna do this. We're gonna eat this while we talk about something that came up and I think is in the lane of. It kind of goes hand in hand with fast food like this. Is gaming. I ran across an interesting article and or read about, of all things, a game I love very much and I enjoy, but I'm not good at, which is Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now, the creator also happens to be the creator of Kirby, that franchise from Nintendo. Masahiro Sakurai. If I said that wrong, forgive me. It's not so much because I got a mouthful of food, or Taco Bell Nachos Bellgrande to be specific, but more just, it's up for interpretation. It's Japanese. So, basically, the Japanese are so polite, in general, culturally speaking. But imagine being so polite, almost too polite, to the point where you feel you need to apologize for giving the world something they can actually enjoy and or release some stress, blow off some steam, and or just stay at home, safe inside, obey the laws, not expose themselves to any immediate danger in a game. A game developer, a game creator, a creator of a game so epic as is Smash Bros. Ultimate for the Switch, and there'll probably be a up-res conversion version we'll get for the Switch 2 whenever that comes out. We're not talking Switch 2 rumors here, by the way. We'll definitely get a high-res version. But imagine making that game, which so many people, like myself included, have spent so many hours either playing the World of Light and or the online mode for, that he felt the need to apologize for making you, me, whoever else is guilty of playing Smash Bros. Ultimate that much, for quote-unquote thousands of hours. That seems crazy to me in a time where, Sony's barely putting out games themselves with a PS5, but they're way too busy and more than ready to drop a PS5 Slim, Pro, 30th anniversary, PS1 gray colored one that no one can get a hold of. I try to get a hold of, obviously, because I never had the PS1, and I saw how awesome that version of the PS5 looked. I figured, let me try to get one, but of course the bots and everybody jumping on it, scalpers and all that, made it impossible. And they limited the numbers available too. That's besides Sony also not putting out games, period, pretty much, for their own sake, first party, whatsoever. What, Astrobot, that was the last big thing that came out from them. Got decent scores, but still may not have sold as much as they want to, or may not turn into a franchise because it's not like out the gates a smash hit. And then you got Microsoft/Xbox, which, Game Pass finally got a hold of the new Call of Duty, which dropped, which I'm probably going to get into at some point. But, yeah, I suck at Call of Duty too, but that's another game for another time. Microsoft Xbox is fucking up. They barely got anything. It seems like they're not going to have exclusives anymore at all. That Indiana Jones game that's coming out either end of this year or early next year is no longer supposedly an exclusive to just Xbox. It's going to be on the PS5 eventually. Fuck no, not the Switch. But then you go to Smash Bros. Ultimate, the creator. Again, Masahiro Sakurai. He's sorry that you spent so much of your time, hundreds, thousands of hours invested in Smash Bros. Ultimate. Imagine creating a game so good and so enjoyable by so many people that you have to come to realization. Kind of like post-nut clarity moment for him, it seems like, as a game creator. You'd be like, oh my god, I made people around the world so happy and enjoyed themselves so much with this game that I helped create that they invested maybe a decimal point or a significant fractional portion of their lives playing Smash Bros. Ultimate of all things, but he's making it out to be like a bad thing. I just said, what Sony's guilty of, what Microsoft, Xbox is guilty of, not really giving a shit about us like that. And also, you know what? Nintendo's kind of guilty too because they just released that Alarmo shit. You got the whole Nintendo version of Spotify with their music, which, again, by the way, as they said with the fucking alarm clock of all things, DLC coming soon, dropping eventually. They don't even have for the launch day on that fucking music app. Goddamn Super Mario 64, easily one of the most go-to soundtracks, and or classic at least. But they made sure to get like every possible version of like no, not even Pokemon. I tried looking up Pokemon. They don't got that either. They got like Emerald, Sapphire, whatever the latest one on Switch was. They got that. Yeah. They got like Kirby on the Game Boy, but they don't got Smash Brothers, any of the Smash Brothers, Ultimate, 64, Brawl, Melee, nothing, and or Super Mario 64. But again, this little thing where he's apologizing for making something so good as is and as was Super Smash Bros. Ultimate, quote, playtime, especially how it's conceived before starting a game, is better thought of as a cost of sorts. According to him. So basically he's saying your time invested in the game does equal money, but it is robbing you of your life's essence to an extent, I guess. Quote, in the modern world, you're constantly competing with everything else. It's a battle for people's time. Even if someone has lots of free time on their hands, so like I got Nachos Bellgrande in my hand right now, that means something different now than it did in the past. There are always things to do. The question is, how do people choose to spend their time? Again, this seems so crazy to me. Maybe it's a Japanese thing, maybe it's a Nintendo thing, maybe it's a little bit of both, hand in hand, since, every fan is waiting on bated breath for the announcement eventually of the Switch 2 officially. Calm your tits, first off. And second, imagine again, you made something so good and enjoyable by so many around the world. People went on hand and feet every time we got an announcement for brand new DLC for Smash Brothers. It was, a joyous occasion. Now, were the last batch of DLC releases the best releases? Debatable if we ask. I mean, the very last one being, oh god, what's the kid's name from Kingdom Hearts? I forget his name, but the kid from Kingdom Hearts. And then, before him, you had Ken. You had fucking Terry from fucking Final Fight, or I forget the franchise. One of those. Terry Bogard, the Ken in like fucking jeans, a bubble vest, and a torn shirt. I don't know. Who else? You had Banjo coming back. Technically Microsoft. Speaking of Microsoft, you had fucking Steve from Minecraft, I guess. And so many others. There's been so many great releases that came with Smash Bros. Ultimate and or, the, what's it called, that system, the one before the Switch, the Wii U as well. So many things. And listen, I know that World of Light ain't everyone's favorite mode. It isn't mine either. It's way too long for its own good. But I do enjoy it at least, because of the spirits and disadvantages and advantages going into a match. I was also, as I'm sure many of you are too, much more a fan of the Sub-Zero Emissary thing. Whatever that thing was called. I can't remember titles right now. It's late. I'm fucking eating, of all things, so late at night. It's FAT-urdays. I'm indulgent though. But I just had to touch on that because imagine, again, you create something so good that so many enjoyed that you have your own sort of post-nut clarity about it, and you eventually feel the need to apologize for making something so good, especially in the realm of video games, where, you know, you just had the Concord thing. What was that, like, what'd they say, like, it was $400 million to make that game, just for it to release 2 weeks, be taken back by Sony, them saying basically, oops, our bad, we didn't mean for this shit to suck that hard. Might as well give you a blowjob. It might have been the same effect pretty much on you, but at least you got a freebie and get a nut off. And completely erase the game from existence. And there's some Amazon series based on video games coming out soon with an episode solely focusing on Concord. So now, do they release that episode as is, or do they, like, maybe push it to the last episode of that season and then add some shit like, oh, by the way, you'll never ever experience this game most likely because it sucks so hard that it was out for 2 weeks and they just shit canned the thing entirely. Really, we're at a point, graphically speaking, for a lot of games that, you know, where else can we go besides looking super photorealistic? And we're not there yet because, you know, Sony lied about having 8K on the PS5. They had to take that off the box eventually and you know, rebrand it as 4K only. We're not there yet with the graphics, and do we really need it at this point? Because now a lot of games too, a lot of AAA titles are really just really nice looking, but very limited interactions with the environments and or not a lot to do, or most of them end up being QuickTime events, or just like, you know, press the button in rhythm or in sync with what's going on the screen, pretty much. To have a good game like that anymore, it's a compliment, which is crazy to think, because video games are supposed to be the luxury pastime of your choosing, if you choose to do so, obviously. And then, you know, you got the imminent release of GTA 6, which the whole world's waiting on. But for right now, I'd like to commend again Masahiro Sakurai for being the creator of Kirby, as well as helping to create the Super Smash Bros. Franchise, but also for having the balls, I guess you could say, because post-nut clarity, it seems like, hit him as a creator, of apologizing to us for giving us something so good that we invested too much of our time, our lives, into one game.
Yo, it's over. Alright, it's over. It's over. Move the mic. Move the mic.
Thank you.
Alright.